That day, Sandy was the name I murmured to myself in the mirror. My white gown radiated under the soft lights of the Philadelphia hall as I prepared to step into what I believed was my forever. The atmosphere vibrated with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the sweet melody of a string quartet. My heart raced with joy, imagining a life beside Daniel, the man I loved, with whom I had shared countless late-night conversations and dreams. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The ceremony had been impeccable. Vows exchanged under an arch of roses, friends and family smiling. But as the reception progressed, a shadow began to creep in. Sandy, Mrs. Davis, Daniel's mother, said, approaching me. Her silver hair gleamed as brightly as her cold gaze. "We need to talk." Her voice was sharp as glass. I followed her to a corner, my satin train trailing, expecting perhaps a minor issue, a seating mix-up. Instead, her eyes narrowed. "You've disrespected me all day," she hissed. "You've embarrassed me in front of everyone." My stomach clenched. I had been nothing but courteous, ensuring every guest felt welcome. "Mrs. Davis, I don't understand," I stammered, but she waved me off. "Don't play innocent. You're not suitable for this family." Before I could react, Daniel appeared, his jaw tight. "What's going on?" he asked, looking at his mother. She repeated her accusations, her voice rising. I tried to explain, but Daniel's eyes darkened. "Is this true, Sandy? Have you been causing problems?" The words whipped me. "No," I said, my voice trembling. "I haven't done anything wrong." But then, in a blur, his hand shot up, and a sharp crack echoed as his palm struck my face. The pain stung, but the humiliation burned even deeper. The guests froze, their smiles fading into shock. Mrs. Davis smirked, triumphant. "You dishonored my mother," Daniel spat, loud enough for everyone to hear. Tears pricked my eyes as I shook. The fairy tale I dreamed of crumbled under the weight of their cruelty. In the silence of the venue's back dressing room, I was alone, my wedding dress crumpled around me like a wilted dream. The sting on my cheek had faded, but the ache in my chest grew heavier with each breath. I stared at my reflection in a dusty mirror, my eyes red from tears I couldn't hold back. The laughter and music from the reception felt like cruel mockery, each note twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. Daniel, the man I trusted with my heart, had assaulted me in front of everyone. Mrs. Davis's smug satisfaction haunted me, her words echoing, "You're not suitable for this family." How had I not seen the venom in their bond? I thought of the years leading up to this day, Daniel's occasional sharp remarks, his mother's subtle digs that I dismissed as quirks. Now, they formed a pattern, clear as the skyline against a winter dusk. This wasn't just a moment of anger. It was a glimpse into a life I couldn't endure. My dream of a loving marriage lay in shattered pieces, but as I wiped away my tears, a spark of defiance flickered within me. I wouldn't let their cruelty define me. I made a vow in that darkened room. I would reclaim my dignity, expose their truth, and fight for justice, no matter how daunting the path. The weight of humiliation pressed down on me, but beneath it, a quiet strength began to rise, propelling me to take the first step towards freedom. The days after the wedding blurred into a fog of pain and determination. I moved through our apartment like a ghost, avoiding Daniel's cold gaze and Mrs. Davis's occasional visits, her presence a reminder of that terrible night. But I was no longer the same woman who had stood paralyzed at the reception. A fire burned within me, fueled by the need to fight back. Yet I couldn't do it alone. After hours of research, I found Detective Arthur Jones, a private investigator known for his sharp mind and discreet professionalism. Sitting in his small office, the scent of coffee and old books calming me, I poured out my story. The slap, the humiliation, the growing realization of their control. Arthur leaned back, his gray eyes steady. Sandy, this won't be easy, but I'll help you uncover the truth. His calm was a lifeline. I hired him on the spot, my heart beating with a mix of fear and hope. Could I really do this? Expose the man I loved and his mother? The idea of confronting them terrified me, but the memory of that public shame and the silent vow I made propelled me forward. Arthur began investigating their financial transactions, while I prepared to collect proof of their cruelty. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, but for the first time, I felt a glimmer of control, the sense that I could rewrite my story. Every word Daniel spoke now carried a weight I hadn't noticed before. I bought a small recorder, tucking it into my purse like a secret weapon. Every conversation with him became a battlefield, my heart racing as I captured his venom. One evening, during a tense dinner in our dimly lit kitchen, he scoffed, "You're useless, Sandy. Can't you do anything right?" His words cut me, but I kept my voice steady, replying, "I'm trying, Daniel." Inside, I trembled, not from fear, but from the thrill of documenting his cruelty. "Your efforts are a joke," he retorted. "You're a burden to me and Mom." The recorder hummed silently, preserving every syllable. Meanwhile, Arthur called with news that sent my pulse soaring. "Sandy, I've found irregularities in Daniel's financial records," he said, his voice grim. "Large sums moved between accounts, likely embezzlement." He showed me documents detailing transactions linked to Daniel's consulting business, with Mrs. Davis's name on several of them. The extent of their deception was staggering. Their abuse was not just personal, but criminal. Each piece of evidence, recordings of Daniel's outbursts, Arthur's financial reports, felt like a brick in the wall I was building against them. The fear of confronting them lingered, but so did my determination, growing stronger with every truth I unearthed. Julia, my best friend since college, became my safe harbor in those dark weeks. Over coffee in her cozy apartment, I shared everything. The recordings, Arthur's discoveries, my plan to expose Daniel and Mrs. Davis. Her brown eyes widened as she listened, her hands clutching mine. "Sandy, you are so strong," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "They can't break you." Her words were a balm, soothing the open wounds of my heart. Together, we sifted through the evidence, her sharp mind picking up details I'd missed, patterns in Daniel's insults, connections in the financial records. One night, as rain drummed against her windows, Julia looked at me, her face determined. "This isn't just about you anymore," she said. "They're hurting other people with their lies." She helped me organize the recordings, highlighting the most incriminating moments and cross-referencing them with Arthur's reports. Each step felt like a reclamation of a piece of myself, the woman who once believed in love now fighting for truth. Julia's unwavering belief in me fueled my courage, reminding me that I wasn't alone. With her by my side, I felt ready to face the next obstacle, to turn my pain into a weapon for justice. Planning the event felt like orchestrating a storm. Julia and I chose a grand hall, its chandeliers casting a glow that masked the truth I was about to unveil. We invited family, friends, and local media, framing it as a celebration of new beginnings. My stomach churned at the thought of facing Daniel and Mrs. Davis again, their confident smiles oblivious to what awaited them. Every detail, the seating arrangement, the timing, the screen for the evidence, had to be perfect. Julia and I spent nights poring over the recordings and documents, ensuring every piece was undeniable. Arthur advised me on the legal risks, his steady voice calming my nerves. The night before, I was alone in my apartment, city lights flickering outside. Fear gnawed at me. What if they twisted the truth? What if the crowd turned against me? But then, I remembered the slap, the weight of their words, and my vow in that dark dressing room. This was my chance to reclaim my voice. As I rehearsed my speech, my hands trembled, but my heart firmed. The event loomed like a precipice, terrifying yet exhilarating. With Julia's encouragement and Arthur's evidence, I was ready to step into the light and expose the darkness Daniel and Mrs. Davis had woven around me. The grand hall buzzed with chatter as guests took their seats, their faces lit by curiosity. I stood at the podium, my heart drumming like a war drum. Daniel and Mrs. Davis circulated nearby, their smiles smug and oblivious. The chandeliers glittered, but the air felt heavy with the truth I carried. I took a deep breath, my voice steady as I began. Thank you for joining me tonight. This was meant to be a celebration of new beginnings, but it's become something larger, a moment for truth. The crowd hushed, eyes fixed on me. Daniel's smile faltered. Mrs. Davis's gaze sharpened. I pressed a button, and the screen behind me lit up. Daniel's recorded voice filled the hall, his cruel words from our kitchen argument echoing, "You're useless, Sandy." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I watched their faces shift from confusion to shock as more recordings played, each one a knife slicing through their facade. Then Arthur's financial documents appeared, pages of transactions showing their embezzlement. The numbers gleamed, undeniable. Daniel's face paled. Mrs. Davis gripped her chair, her composure breaking. "This is the truth," I said, my voice rising in conviction. "They abused and defrauded not just me, but others." The room erupted in murmurs, media scribbling furiously. I felt a surge of satisfaction, my fear replaced by the power of standing in my truth. The day of the hearing arrived. I sat in the witness chair, the wood creaking beneath me as I recounted the abuse. Daniel's slap, his cutting words, Mrs. Davis's complicity. My voice trembled, but I held my head high, the memory of that Philadelphia hall propelling me forward. The evidence, recordings, financial records, was piled before the judge, a testament to their crimes. Daniel tried to deflect, his lawyer fabricating stories of misunderstanding, but the recordings played again, their venom undeniable. Mrs. Davis's face twisted as the financial documents were presented, her role in the fraud exposed. The room felt stifling, the weight of reliving my pain heavy, but I drew strength from Julia's encouraging nod in the gallery. The judge's gavel fell like thunder. Daniel, guilty of fraud, ordered to pay restitution. Mrs. Davis fined, her reputation in tatters. My divorce was granted, the word abuse etched into the decree. Stepping out of the courthouse, the fresh air hit my face, and I exhaled, a mix of exhaustion and triumph washing over me. The battle had worn me down, but I had stood firm, tearing down their lies. For the first time in months, I felt the chains of their control loosening, my heart lighter with the promise of freedom. I left Philadelphia behind, trading its bustling streets for a quiet cabin in rural New Hampshire, where rolling hills and whispering pine trees offered solace. Settling into my new home, I unpacked boxes in the golden late afternoon light, each item a step towards healing. The scars of Daniel's betrayal lingered, his words and that slap still echoing in silent moments, but they no longer defined me. Sitting on my porch, I watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. I reflected on the journey, the marriage that broke me, the evidence that armed me, the courtroom that freed me. Julia's late-night calls and Arthur's steady guidance had been my anchors, pulling me through the darkest storms. Now, in this peaceful refuge, I felt the weight of my past lessening, replaced by a quiet strength. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a woman who fought for her truth and won. The stillness of New Hampshire enveloped me like a promise, whispering that I could rebuild not just a home, but a life. Every breath felt lighter, every sunset a reminder that I had reclaimed my story, ready to write the next chapter with courage and hope. In my New Hampshire cabin, I found peace in small moments. The smell of fresh coffee, the rustle of leaves outside my window, the warmth of a quilt on chilly mornings. Each day was a step toward a future I could shape, free from the shadows of Daniel and Mrs. Davis. Their downfall, splashed across headlines, felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. The legal victory had been mine, but the true triumph was this, standing on my own, my heart no longer bound by their cruelty. Julia visited often, her laughter filling the house, while Arthur sent occasional letters, his words a silent nod to our shared struggle. As I hiked through the hills, the crisp air filling my lungs, I felt a deep gratitude for the journey. I faced betrayal, stood up in a crowded hall, and fought in a courtroom, emerging not just whole, but stronger. My story was one of resilience, a testament to the power of truth. Thank you for listening to Sandy's story. Let us know in the comments if this story moved you. We'd love to hear.